Truma, makers of the Combi Heater and iNet system, are proud to sponsor Practical Motorhome TV.
Welcome to Practical Motorhome TV, a flawless fusion of van and tastic. Coming up on the show, we have some van and site reviews, plus some friendly technical advice from our expert Diamond Dave. But before all that, our Peter goes in search of some Italian excellence in the shape of the Mobilvetta K-Yacht 85.
This is Italian manufacturer Mobilvetta's K-Yacht 85. Italians like to say they're good navigators, and with good reason. Think of Christopher Columbus. And this is Mobilvetta's attempt to bring all those centuries of shipbuilding experience into the world of motorhomes. You can see that in the sleek outside shape of the motorhome, the way it leans slightly forward, almost as if it's carving through the waves, and in the monochrome of the decals along the edges. In fact, it looks quite like a super yacht that you might see in Monaco. But there are other ways this motorhome resembles a yacht as well, and that brings us inside. As you can see, this motorhome really does take the nautical theme inside with the wood veneer panelling and the chrome retainers on a lot of the shelves. I can just imagine there being some important naval trophy put up on some of them. It's also the kind of thing I think Roman Abramovich would feel comfortable in, with all the sort of pearlescent finish to the lockers, and then particularly with all the LED lighting that's around here that really does brighten the place up. However, it's actually called a techno line, this particular range of motorhomes, which means it's geared at a slightly younger audience. And I'd also say that there's often quoted by dealers that while it's a man who pays for the motorhome, it's a woman who chooses it. I don't think most blokes would be particularly put off by being inside here, because there's very little in the way of anything too feminine. There's no chintz, there's no kind of floral stuff. There's just nice smooth lines everywhere. And you can see there are clever designs elsewhere in this motorhome too. Now this is one of the best designed kitchens I've ever seen in a motorhome. I think designers of kitchens in houses could learn a lot from this kitchen. You get a 3-burner hob. You get a bin, which is always useful. There's still enough space to do all your chopping in. But look what happens when I lift up the sink cover and turn it into a chopping board. You then have a chopping board, which is perfectly stable, right above the sink, which is where you probably want to leave all your droppings afterwards. And look what's underneath here too. Open the cupboard. It looks like a fairly standard shelf, but it comes all the way out there, and there's loads of room to put pans and things in. With the overhead lockers on top as well, and a shelf for spices next to the fridge here, I don't think you'd ever run out of space in this kitchen. And just behind the kitchen is this large bedroom. You get 2 fixed single beds, and they're both over 6 foot long, and they are super comfortable to sleep in, believe me. Underneath this one is a wardrobe with a hugely creative amount of space, not just with a hanging rail and the shelves at the back, but also with these little cubby holes where you can put socks and boxes and things like that. There's another wardrobe with shelves on the other side, enough to put a suitcase in there. And there's more storage space under the steps here. But best of all, obviously, it's quite nice to have a little cuddle up at night time as well, sometimes. If you want to do that, simply undo the latch here, pull out the central bit, pull over the cushion, and you have a double bed that is over 2 meters in each direction. Perfect for a nice night's sleep. On the right-hand side of the bedroom is the washroom, with a lovely wide stainless steel sink. On the left-hand side, there's a great shower as well. And for total privacy, you can move across this Japanese-style screen. In fact, the only slight niggle I have about this motorhome is the drop-down bed above me. You have to turn these swivel seats back to face the front and put them into exactly the right position before it will come down. But there are lots of good points about this van as well. On the outside, you don't really notice them because they're very sleekly designed, but there are sockets for an external gas point, which means you can have a great barbecue, and an external shower, which is fantastic when you're coming back from the beach full of sand. Most of all, This is the only motorhome I've come across so far that has the luxury of underfloor heating. It's not the only form of heating it has, because it also has normal blown air heating. But it makes a huge difference in the morning, because you can get up and have a nice cup of coffee and have warm toes.
Hello there. About this time of year, many of us are bringing our vans out of storage after the winter, preparing for the new season. Let's have a quick look through what we need to do to prepare our vans for a good year's holidaying. So let's have a look what we've got in the lockers. We've got quite a bit of clutter in here. Many years ago, gentleman Jack Bancroft, a fellow journalist, said to me, annually, empty everything out of your lockers. Everything at the motorhome. Anything that you find in there that you haven't seen in the last 12 months, you probably don't need. So don't bother putting it back in. You're just carrying excess weight for no good reason. So in this locker, we've got quite a lot of clutter. We need to empty all of this out, then we can check the locker, we can keep it clean, we can check for damp around the doorways. If you're submitting your vehicle for a habitation inspection, this is a good time to do it. Empty it out, submit the vehicle for habitation inspection, and then the technicians aren't having to climb all over your clutter to do the job. Some places, if there's a lot of clutter in the way, they will just say not accessible, couldn't do that part of the check. So it's in your interests to empty it out before you submit it for habitation inspection. That's the lockers sorted. Let's have a look inside. Right, so we'll start with the high-level cupboards. Now again, clutter just makes the technician's job harder if you're doing a habitation inspection. Luckily, we've only got a few things in here. That's not too bad. But if you take them out, you can then inspect the lockers, make sure cupboard hinges are working okay, latches are working okay. Have a good look inside. You're checking for any dark marks on the walls, which could indicate damp. If you've got a damp meter yourself, all the better, you can check it. But as I say, if you're submitting the vehicle for its annual habitation inspection, this is the ideal time at the start of the season, and then you should be good to go for the season. We talked about water systems before. This one's ready for draining out. We put some white wine vinegar into the tank to sterilise it and descale it. I neglected to say how much to put in last time. 2 to 3 litres of white wine vinegar into a 75 to 100 litre tank of water is adequate. Run your boiler for about 10 minutes, turn it off, let it cool, run it again for about 10 minutes. If you can leave it overnight before you drain it out, all well and good, all the better. It gives the acid of the vinegar a chance to dissolve the lime scale and clean the system out. And then all you do is simply turn on the taps and run the water out. When it's drained, flush it through with some fresh water, jobs are good 'un. One more thing I should add is that the acid of the vinegar will dissolve the lime scale. See specks of lime scale here that are coming out of the system. And that's what it's all about really, cleaning and sterilising the system. The beauty of using vinegar is it's a foodstuff basically, so it's not harmful to us. Because it's an acid, it will dissolve the lime scale and clean the system out. And it's also a mild sterilising agent. So it'll clean it and freshen it, and you're all ready to go for a new season. While we're at it, it's worth checking that all of your appliances work as they should. So, light your burners on the cooker. Watch out for yellow in the flame. We have a little bit of yellowness in some of these flames, but that's perfectly normal. What you don't want is a lot of yellow in the flame, because that would indicate poor combustion and carbon monoxide production, which we really don't want. So that's all good. Again, if you're having the habitation and servicing done, make sure that they service the fridge while they're at it. Very often it's an additional thing you have to ask for, so be sure you ask them to service the fridge for you. And that's pretty much it. You just need to check that everything's working right, your windows open and close properly, all of the systems function, and go and enjoy the season. See you next time.
Do not attempt any work on vehicles unless you're competent to do so. Always have safety critical work checked by a suitable qualified professional.
Sadly, that's all we've got time for in part 1. But don't go anywhere, because we'll be back very soon.
Truma, makers of the Combi heater and iNet system, are proud to sponsor Practical Motorhome TV.